Hello there. Hail six. Hello. Hopefully my lighting and color and everything is a little better. Have to err on the, it's annoying me. Hang on. Did I go out of focus? I did. Hopefully, see, problem is, think the sound's okay. So long as nobody moves. And also, because it looks fine on the computer, and then I go and look at it on the TV, and it looks washed out and bright, and it's just, all of this drama is around me trying to make a kit lens work. I've got a Sony A6400 camera, right? And I've got the lights and everything, but it's just got a kit lens. And the problem is that the lens I need is, expensive. So I spend so much time fucking with everything, like lights, like with all the time that I've spent trying to get my color grading and fucking everything working and buying new lights and all that stuff. I really could have just bought the lens, but it looks okay. I just care about details in the wrong kinds of, the creative details and the polish. Look at my new chat, for example. Pretty grey. Anyway, the finer details. Didn't prepare for the stream, mind you, but this one's actually pretty good. Sorry, I was also choking down some scrambled eggs before I actually, literally so now I've just can't eat too fast. So if I hurl eggs, it'll get me clicks. Who cares? There's no standards anymore. That's a good thing. If I spew on stream, then, it can only be good for us. That's where we live now. And we get back to Twitter. Hello, how is everybody? Happy Twitter week, everybody. The Twitter festival, everybody. Okay, now in all seriousness, I waited a little while because I just wanted to see it all play out. And one of the things I think, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of emotional, intellectual exhaustion, okay, to do this in a way that is, we can make the internet better, okay. But where I fit, because, I try not to go too much into culture war shit. Like, obviously, I started doing that because it's easy content. And when you're, shit at streaming and afraid of the camera and, doing culture wars shit is easy because that news cycle is sort of perpetual, okay? It's always happening. You always have content. It's beautiful. But, it's just not really how I'm wired. I like to see things, and I like to slow down, consider things, look at the details, and sort of try to form something where I have a different perspective on things, but it's also not just about sort of a unique value proposition or niche or anything like that, because that's all cynical stuff. And I'll get to that about sort of, we'll talk a little bit about early Twitter and what was great about it and how maybe we might be able to get back there. Now, and this isn't, it was better in my day. There were things that were shit about early Twitter. And that, I just think that there's things that much like, I think that the problem with, progressives, whatever you want to call it, right, is this idea that progress is linear, that it happens in a sort of a linear fashion and that you demand it, and that, the way that maybe this is part of sort of what I started to ruminate on and reflect on and sort of has made the book fall apart a bit. Because when you're trying to look at history, and it's kind of, again, it's just an unintended consequence of all of this information being available, the information overload that we all are subjected to, okay, that will trip up all of those biases that, I talk about a lot. But also, I think a side effect of, it's not just about sort of listicles or tweets or, any one thing, okay? And again, as a user experience designer, I understand sort of what the unintended sort of psychological consequences of a lot of these design decisions have been, but they weren't deliberate. It's you know, again, we can put political theory about commodification. Let's just park some of this stuff. Everyone's got their take, and everyone thinks that their take is the only take. This is why I'm doing sort of maybe daily streams this week, because I've been meaning to do them anyway, and I just get to focus on this one area and talk about this a little bit. Okay, now, where I think I fit is in a more rounded view of things, because what I do on a daily basis is I actually look at, oh my God, I look at pretty much everyone's take on certain things. Okay, so I focus, again, I don't look at everyone. I choose key people who, for the most part, not always, but, you know, for the most part, are representative of various tribes and various voices that will have somewhat predictable responses. And I like to see roughly, that's how I sort of take the temperature of an issue, whether it has the potential to escalate, you know, what the consequences might be, because we can't possibly consume all of the information. Sometimes, you know, as unpolished as I am, you know, and un-TV trained and un-media trained and all that sort of stuff, there's some benefit in just someone like me who's got a lot of experience and knowledge and stories and, you know, sort of a broader wisdom, especially around the internet, to sort of just calm down, sit down and try to distill some of this stuff, because it's fast moving. There's a lot of moving parts. Everyone thinks that their moving part is the only angle that can be sort of, you know, had. And I think one of the big things that well, it's part of the reason why I was is to be curious, okay? Is to get some curiosity back, but also not just, you know, critical thinking skills, or, you know, because a lot of people obviously weaponize critical thinking to mean think what I think. Okay, that's not what I'm not, and I'm also not trying to be someone who challenges ideas simply because everyone believes, you know, the current thing. There's a constant sort of, this is the dilemma that I've got, right? Both personally and professionally, because, you know, I am a bit of a smart ass. Okay, there's a conflict. I'm a smart ass. I like jokes. I think jokes are funny. I think jokes are funny. Wow, hot take there, Tay. You know what I mean? I lean into jokes. My defense mechanism is humor. I think humor is persuasive. I find, you know, I like to swear. You know, I find I like to figure out what is most engaging and in a positive way. There's this pull in the positive direction over here. But there's a thing where I'm actually also, I take what I do incredibly seriously, okay? I've spent, you know, 2 decades, you know, nearly 3, honing a craft. And I think a lot of people really just don't see somebody who has created on the internet since the beginning as a craft, or that the internet has its own sort of unique history, or that, you know, there are events that happen, you know, like this thing with, you know, everyone seems to be a teenager on the internet. This is a separate stream. I've got a rant brewing, but basically this idea you must be over 13 to use the internet, and that should apply not just to your physical age, but to your general knowledge, your literacy, your emotional maturity, you know, how you handle conflict, you know, all of that sort of stuff. If you are acting like a fucking toddler, then maybe maybe you do need to somewhat consider whether you can handle this internet thing. Okay. And that might be one of the mechanisms that we can implement with social media. And I think that nobody, you know, like you need a license to drive on the road so that you don't hurt other people on the road, okay? There's elements where there's places and controlled environments where you can be a fuckwit. It's called a racetrack. Or you can, you know, get your own property and you can sort of hoon around in a car, but you need a driver's license. And to get that driver's license, you know, you need a theory and a practical exam. Now, I'm not... a lot of the themes with this Elon Musk thing, beyond all of the, oh, the sky is falling and, oh, let me come back and be learn nothing and still just write slurs because I want to write slurs because I'm a wrecker and I don't actually build anything. The only thing that I build and think that I build, Tim Pool, is something where other wreckers cheer you on and you think you've built something, okay? That's also mentally under 13. Okay, like seriously, does the dude live in sleep in a race car bed at this point? Anyway, so and I just there's so many different factors, okay? And when I say factors, I mean factors as in like a like personality factors, things that exist in opposition to each other. They're on an axis in opposite intention, okay, which is this idea that the way that I use humor is also weaponized to recruit into the far right. Both of those things can be true, which is that jokes are great, sarcasm detectors don't work very well, but allowing all of those jokes gives an in to the bad guys. Okay. Censorship. Okay. It's not, it's not 1 or 0. Okay. It's not binary. Okay. Dare I suggest we're non-binary in most of this stuff. Okay. Is very, very grey. And I think that I'm quite comfortable in the grey, but I think that people, in terms of, I've been doing a lot of work on my brand. Yes, it is stupid widgets like the chat widgets and stuff, but that's just like, that's just assets and colors and shit. That's not branding. In terms of my brand, it's interesting because with Twitter somewhat looking like it might go back to, well, I don't want to go back to 2016. I want to go back to 2010. But with we're kind of getting a do-over. And, like my brand early on was loving the conflict. Working, not the conflict on Twitter, but the working through the inner conflict, the different parts and different aspects of myself, okay? Which is I'm allowed to just be a head in a jar and have sort of thought experiments and make a joke and just sort of, I didn't hurt anybody, the few times where I sort of joined in on a fucking whatever, I feel bad about it because I've got a conscience. And this is why, those who are, I'll sort of do a little bit more background, but, there's people who just have suddenly shown up and started, posting slurs or testing the disinformation, misinformation policy, knowing full well that, for that AI to it's not just Twitter's AI that we've got to be concerned about, right? It is actually the AI of these, botnets, which also learn, okay? I've showed you some of those bots before where you can actually just configure a chat bot. If you know roughly what you want to do and what you want to say, you can configure a chat bot in half a day, okay? Imagine if you had a lot of money and a lot of interest in, doing that, then you'd have a lot more than half a day and a lot more people who can sit and do that stuff. The people with the resources will manipulate the system, especially the bad actors, okay? This is a fact, okay? Now, how do we deal with that? For me, I feel like it always comes back to a combination of things, because I'm not one of those people that's like hyper individual. It's all the individual. And it's not something necessarily that the state can do unless it is at a sort of global scale. Now, the problem with the global situation at the moment is that we're at the mercy of, global capitalism that's dominated by the United States. So there's all of these other factors, and that's sort of how we ended up here with the internet. Now, early in the internet, the idea was that it would be independent. Okay, there was some political pressure early on, right, to make the internet. Sorry, let me get my leg up. Get my leg up, not my leg over. Leg up. There was some pressure to, have the internet owned by the United States, right? And Bill Clinton actually pushed for it to not be part of America because they were, ironically, they were quite conscious of the fact that this would happen, that if it was, owned by the United States, or that the United States were in charge of sort of ICANN and governance and all that sort of stuff, that would be a target on that. That's what I find really interesting, is that at some point there was just this corporate wash, that took over, and it was no one person to blame, no one force. Like I said, Clinton was initially one of those people that pushed for an independent internet over, despite sort of pressure from various interests. But obviously, once people started to, post 2009, the Obama campaign, and, once they sort of really figured out that having control and the ability to manipulate people's, micro interactions online using data, okay, it started with Obama. Correction. Didn't start with Obama, it just sort of really got steam, which was the Obama campaign, and they were, keeping those very early centralized CRMs, okay, which is a customer relationship management, like Salesforce, a database, okay, of people. When they talk about sort of big data, that's sort of, what it means, sort of. Lots of stuff, so many things. I'm trying to just sort of, distill. But I think, look, I know that most people are not going to watch me. First of all, again, I'm not media trained. I'm not somebody who is naturally predisposed to performance, right? It's just not my thing. I will learn the craft, but I want the actual putting yourself out there outside of, being sort of big brand Taya like on Twitter. I'm kind of thinking that back to basics, because over the years I've been pretty well correct on most things, not always. Okay, not always. I've been wrong on things as well, because that's when you're sitting sort of at the the edge of whatever's happening, you're going to get shit wrong too. But broadly, I've been correct about trends and where it's heading, where I think it's going to go, because I have a basis in political theory, in history, and obviously in human behavior, and especially how people interact online through observation and experience. And this is one of those things where the Elon Musk Twitter thing is interesting, because it does show a real gap in the commentary, which is everyone is pushing a slice of this. And it's very weird. It's weird, okay? Well, I'll talk about this sort of maybe Wednesday. I'm trying to keep it somewhat chronological. But you know me, I'll fall apart. But, yes, tomorrow will be in the afternoon because I've got a doctor's appointment. But after that, I'll do a stream. So just so you know, it won't be in the morning. Probably Wednesday or so, I'm going to talk about what's the plan? Like, this is the thing where people are kind of going, all right, well, a lot of people don't know how sort of digital projects are rolled out. They don't understand sort of the implications of, a change of ownership, first of all, taking it private, first, again, firing engineers, okay? There's so many assumptions baked in to a lot of this stuff that this is where this Dunning-Kruger shit with tech and politics really, we see it a lot with politics, but with tech as well, where people who are, especially like a dickhead MAGAs, the people of the Parler people, oh, fuck, I laughed. The email from Parler, which was like, no, okay, Musk bought Twitter, yeah, it's all cool, but, we still matter, it's okay, we're still doing our thing. We're still ultimately the only free speech network. No, you're not. Okay. There's no such thing as a free speech platform. It's just not tenable. Okay. A free speech platform means freedom. You know, again, I think it's sort of that Australian model of free speech, okay, which is freedom of expression, freedom of political expression. But you can't go around swearing at people and you know, calling and defaming people and, you know, all of that sort of stuff, right? And again, the courts mostly sort that out. Now, obviously that, again, can be manipulated. The courts are not what they used to be, like, you know, even in Australia. Like, as much as I've talked about sort of the way that we're designed around common law, more and more there's sort of this overreach of legislation, especially with this Conservative government, with, you know, use of sort of, it used to be, you know, sort of handling domestic affairs through, you know, the Section 52, the foreign affairs, right? Foreign affairs and trade. And I think taxation, where they're just sort of using some of these things to expand their power. And they're doing that a lot through sort of home affairs and security now. They're using this sort of loophole of international affairs and security to, you know, sort of exercise things or exercise powers and sort of do dodgy shit, okay, that, you know, not people wouldn't necessarily consent to if they had a full understanding of the system. A lot of it relies on you, like, either as a lawyer understanding the legal system and going, yes, it's a perfect common law system, and you go to court and it'll be sorted out in court. But, you know, in reality, you know, there's so much bureaucracy, procedural stuff at the moment that it is very difficult to even sort of get heard in court. So there's lots of these complicating factors, and Twitter's no different. And then with Twitter, you've got things like the fact that people aren't anonymous. Oh, sorry, they're anonymous. Okay, there's that sort of the handle. Okay, I mean, you're not anonymous, but, you know, for the most part, you have a username, okay, and that sort of stuff. You know, it's also global. Okay, so a lot of the discourse, this is some of the fucking annoying discourse about Elon Musk and Twitter, is that they're just like, it should be a public utility in the United. It's like, I know, there's a world here, America. There's only 320 million and dropping of you. 7.5 billion others. Okay. Now, that's a problem because America dominates the terms of service. America dominates a lot of these things. Okay. They dictate the rules to, you know, my friend who, you know, hopefully gets his account back, but he got his blue check account banned for calling a MAGA mass reporting swarm, if you remember. He called them cunts, and they mass reported him, and he lost his 20K plus verified account because Americans don't like the C word. Okay, that's a problem. Whether you like it or whether you're offended by it or not, who gives a shit? Okay, that's a problem. This is the thing where it's like, okay, well, everyone's got their take, but what solutions are we looking at here? What are you even identifying the correct problem? Because you can't solve a problem until you identify the problem correctly. I've spent 5 years, more than that, trying to just simply diagnose the problem and try to explain, like, this is, you know, my streams are small, but those who come along with me and have sort of come along through this weird ass thing called YouTube that I do, okay, is trying to figure out what's true, trying to figure out who's sort of good faith, bad faith, try and figure out who's gaming the system, okay, trying to look at the landscape and you know, like, really just get you know, sort of a baseline. And that's taken me probably about, well, it's been that's been my whole career. But, you know, focusing specifically on what broke Twitter and why the discourse just turned so poisonous and why it was so influential in terms of policy. Right? That, you know, I've been doing that for like 6 years full time, and then I still get fuckwits arguing with me on stream and telling me to read a book. It's great. I love it. But I'm just saying, like, you know, we'll talk about a little bit about some of the history there. But this is where I think, this is my frustration, is that Everyone's sort of just pushing. It's a really good example of where if you watch like lots of different people to get sort of a sense of what's going on, people are being deliberately obtuse. They don't know much about tech. And also they are pushing a specific sort of narrative. Okay. Now, what narrative am I pushing? I don't really have an agenda as such, other than thinking things through, maybe get patrons, maybe make a living, maybe try to, fix the internet, put some stuff out there, put it on record, and so that those times when I have been correct is on record. Okay, as with being wrong. I mean, that's part of putting yourself out there, is that you're going to be right and wrong. Okay, but I've been right on this a lot. So in 2014, Twitter was not doing so great. They were struggling to monetize. Okay, advertisers were not really keen on it. Okay. It was loved by sort of a handful of sort of media figures, but it was quite boutique. It was you could go viral organically. A lot of the stuff, a lot of journalists, lazy journalists, were using it basically just to harvest content, okay, and sort of utilize Twitter to create some bizarre news cycle story. Okay, like that really kind of, it turned in around 2012. I've talked about the sort of Coney 2012 stuff before, where it kind of over time got refined, and sort of the role that BuzzFeed and Gawker Press and those sorts of out of the ashes of sort of the celebrity gossip sites sort of formed this hybrid bastard child of celebrity gossip and news. Okay, Gawker was a big part of that whole thing, and people started to get confused about what was news and what was real. I mean, none of this is new if you know about sort of the history of the printing press and yellow journalism, and what eventually a bunch of standards sort of had to be put in place, and a process had to be put in place, and a society and an expectation around ethics needed to be put in place. And we're seeing again that this is why ethical frameworks and responsibility, these conversations about responsibility and having a platform are so important, because they're also historical. Okay, so for people to just sort of outright reject this idea that with influence and the ability to influence a lot of people, that you can just say whatever you want to say, that doesn't work. Okay, now, can it be abused? Yes. Okay, so the problem, the thing about gatekeeping is that it does tend to leave out voices of marginalized groups. Okay, but fucking MAGAs and Fox and these fucking evangelical fuckwits who are radical, they're not marginalized. They're extremely powerful, and they have exploited the internet over and over again. And this is, I think that, and this is where I say, where these things are in tension with each other, because some things are just based in fact and history and events, and we, Americans in particular, refuse to fucking learn from history. They think they're the only ones that, the world's teenagers, okay? It's only ever happening to them, and it's the first time it ever happened, and nobody can tell them. Their parents don't know shit, okay? Nobody's learned anything ever, and they're the first to ever go through it, okay? That's the beauty of having a little bit of wisdom and experience and listening and having a bit of humility, like the entitlement of, there's an entitlement that comes with, again, generalizing, but, Americans on the internet at large, even sort of progressive, even left, even ones that aren't like wrecking everything all the time, right? Or exploiting, even good faith people who are just sort of, boring old marketers. They're always just trying to find a grift and a loophole and a way to fucking, get around the system. rather than go, oh, the system exists for what reason? Oh, okay, I understand why the system exists. I'm not going to sit and try to get around the system because I understand that it exists. And the system has to get more and more restrictive the more that I try to get around the system. That's just, like I don't understand that mindset. That's the mindset of a destroyer and a wrecker, not someone who builds. Like someone who builds sort of figures stuff out as they go. It is moving. It is good faith. And, the rules, I don't need external rules to tell me not to be a fuckwit and not to wreck things because I know what work goes into things. I know sort of the history around a lot of this stuff. And I value it. I value the effort and I value the connections that I make. And, and the same thing goes for Twitter, which is that I value Twitter. I love Twitter, and seeing what's happened to it in the last 5 years or so has been very upsetting. Like large parts, like I said earlier at the beginning of the stream, large parts of my, opportunities and personal brand and everything that you see, public facing, everything that you see, online, it came out of Twitter because I thought that it was marvelous. And it was, and that, I think that that's one of another problem, I think, again, with, sort of American commentary particularly, but also just selfish people who don't love the internet, like really love it. They see it as a tool and something like Twitter. Yeah, it might be about your rights. Okay. Yes, your right to speak, all that stuff. But at the same time, it is an immense privilege. Okay. When I grew up in, I'm in Western Australia. I'm not even in the fucking, I'm in the best part of Australia, but I'm not in the most, where opportunities thrive for young girls who are smart like this. Okay. My future would have been, either moving out of Perth early or, having to work in a fucking, corporate, some sort of corporate bullshit thing or probably in the public service, right? Those were my choices. Those were my options, okay, if I stayed here. What the internet did was it opened up the world for me, okay? It gave me friends around the world. It gave, I think we need to maybe think about what Twitter gives us because so many people right now, this actually happened when Jordan Peterson and James Lindsay got banned from Twitter. And they were all like, oh, it's shit anyway. I don't like it. Well, why are you on it then? Why are you on it 12 hours a day then if you hate it so much? You're an addict. Okay? But with people but then now it's like, well, because of transactional thinkers, not relational. Now, again, these things overlap. Builders tend to be relational thinkers, okay? People who make things, build relationships, work in good faith, and, are in stark contrast and conflict, okay, with wreckers. People who are, again, this is collectivism, individualism, okay? All these different words, okay? Who gives a fuck about that? But let's build a little persona, okay? On one hand, you've got people who tend to be relational, okay? If you're a relational thinker and being relational in business, that's how I operate. I'm not a transactional person. I think that if you put stuff out, you do favors for people, it comes back. Now, not always, okay? Unfortunately, the way that business is structured at the moment and the business mindset at the moment and the internet especially, the way this stuff is structured, from the base of capitalism, okay, is that people who are more relational and do the right thing generally get taken advantage of by transactional people who just put this in and expect, out. If I do this, I want this. Otherwise, it's not worth getting anything back, okay? And, it's the same thing with emotional labor and, labor for pay. Labor for in exchange for money, right? It's the same sort of stuff. There's lots of different concepts here. But I think it really is important because what I'm seeing is a lot of these people, regardless of who they are, like MAGAs, they're so fucking entitled and they have no idea what was built for them to do what they do and wreck it. And it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing with all these fucking like media people. They're like, oh, it's only something that is of value if they can exploit it. This is why these fucking, woke journos or these progressive journalists, they're still ultimately conservative and they're still ultimately pro-capitalist because they're exploiters. They are wreckers. They are users. They are consumers. They are not builders of things. And I think that this is where I just don't like people who, it's maybe, I know that it's naive. But it's just part of my wiring, which is, if someone, I spent all day yesterday, okay? This is doing something that the opening intro, right, with my text. That's not done I originally do my thumbnails in Photoshop, right? Do you know what I spent yesterday doing? I spent yesterday researching how to do implementing a slab JavaScript thing so that I can just type in what I want to call my stream and it automatically stretches and formats the text. Now, obviously, typographically, it's not as pretty as, say, if I'd done it manually and for typesetting, but it's just a fucking thumbnail. It doesn't matter. But then there's those people who will just go, well, I don't fucking care. I'm just going to offshore that shit to Fiverr and it's a thumbnail. Who cares? But for me, it's like, I know how long what I did was that's a JavaScript thing that you've got to implement into a website, right? And someone wrote that for free in their lunch break, using their fucking knowledge, using their training, using their, sometimes their college debt. In the case of code, not so much if you're older, but the younger guys, generally have gone to school, spend a lot of money, okay? And this is where I think operating from a place of curiosity and humility and relational thinking. Like my relationship with Twitter has never been transactional. It has been relational, and it's been disappointing when I've been, kind and patient and, as someone who was, I was talking to my friend about how we had, 2008, 2007 accounts. And, I think a lot of us went through that early cycle and deleted our accounts. And so, we've got those older accounts. But, we built the platform, like the @ symbol came from users. The hashtag came from users. All of these features, okay, they came from users using the platform and it evolved with time. Retweet came from people using, RT to, share it and quote tweet. These things, they have a history and they came from us. It didn't come from the designers at Twitter. The designers and engineers at Twitter initially did what we wanted them to do, okay? And there was a sweet spot with Twitter and social media in general. I'm just focused on Twitter, obviously, because of the topic. And Paul showed me an advertising campaign from pets.com, I think it was, something like that. And I was doing sort of, consulting on that. So I've done a couple of similar things. And a big part of my IP was meet people where they're at, get off social. I've got posts from 2009 that say basically this, which is that there was a brief window where companies, corporations, politicians, powerful people, they had to come to us on our turf and create content that was entertaining for us. And they had to sell us on why they should be there, okay, early on. You had brands, they didn't quite understand it. Advertising agencies hadn't joined up just, they found it. It was people came to me and people like me and go, okay, I don't understand this social media thing. Is it worth it? And I'd go, yes, but only in a specific way. Because, I was very protective of that experience of making friends and connecting and sharing stories and, putting my thoughts out there for everyone to sort of, a mutual understanding. like that sort of relational stuff of, I'll look after you and you look after me and you'll forgive me and I'll forgive you if you fuck up and we'll figure it out and we'll, all that sort of stuff like that. That was the spirit of early Twitter. But then around 2009, 2010, the transactional people started to move in, okay? The social media gurus, the people who saw a buck in it, the people who had been, I can think of one particular social media consultant that I have zero fucking time and energy for. And I've been, used to go after at the time and, who built a fucking, she'd been on Twitter for 2 weeks and suddenly she was fucking, she was DMing everyone and like spamming everybody and, like all these PR firms, and they had no idea what they were doing. And, I had friends as well that, were working as PR and journalists or whatever, and they had no idea what the fuck they were doing. And I told them, don't do that. Here's how you do it. And this was, this was very early on, okay, for Twitter, not for the internet, obviously. There's a whole decade, 2 decades before, a decade before that. But with Twitter, there was in 2010, 2011, and this is, I went viral in 2011. In 2011, that was when it was early. It wasn't easy to, it was easy to go viral on Twitter, but that sort of direct relationship between Twitter and mainstream press was not there. There were a handful of people on there. It was a mix of people, but it was mostly just curious people, and it wasn't really all that serious. But then, I was one of the early ones with the iPad thing. I joked about it. And I was, I went viral. Well, viral for a day or 2 or 3, I can't remember, something like that. And, but that was something where, you can plant this, you can do the story. You get a journalist, they pick it up, they publish it, they put it, because, the way that the media is sort of networked now that in my case, it was sort of the Oz Stereo West, 7 sort of ecosystem. And then that sort of gets shared and shared and shared, and you kind of end up viral. And then maybe if it's particularly, thank goodness this didn't happen to me, but, that can happen, and you can end up on Fox Cable News, and then Fox Cable News does all of that shit, the Murdoch rags. They travel through those channels. And that was something that wasn't there up until, 2010. Okay? It was pretty early, like when I went viral. So, and that was something where I was then teaching that, in good faith, not expecting the wreckers and the transactional people and the selfish people and the exploiters to come and fuck up my platform. And this was, but there was a window in, sweet spot between, say, 2010 and, maybe 2012, where ad agencies hadn't caught up, corporations hadn't caught up. A couple of savvy, a lot of it was, young guys in a marketing team who kind of went, yeah, let's do this. Like, Coles and Woolworths and retailers and those things were just kind of wise and going, oh yeah, let's have some fun with this and use it for, promotional, whatever. They were using it in certain ways. And that was fun, but it was on our terms. And this is the thing I think that was great about Twitter early on, which was that it was a direct relationship between, it was direct to customer, okay? It really was. It was something, but also that it was like someone knocking on a door of a pre-existing party rather than hosting the event in a way. It was more like a spot. Okay, let me think of my analogy. It was more like, like a spontaneous street party, and then fucking, Nando's truck shows up, okay, because there's a street party and there's people there, and things show up, and it just is a party that happened organically, versus an organized event where people bought tickets ahead of time, and it was, heavily controlled, and all that sort of stuff. That's kind of what happened with the sort of flip. And with Twitter, what really kind of, hang on, my process is just peaking. Give me a second. Let me just review, because I think the lighting's okay. So I'll just, let me just hide the preview so that it's not using so much. Okay. So, but with Twitter, there are some of those early campaigns. God, they were fun. They were fun to work on, fun to advise, but most people ignored them. So what would happen to me a lot was that I would sit down and I've got a few things on my blog that are there. I've got to sort through some stuff. It's all there. It's got to be like discoverable. And, where I was saying like, you've got to do it a certain way. You've got to, meet people where they're at. This is not yours. No one wants to talk to your logo, okay? That was something I used to say a lot. They want to talk to the people behind. And this was something that you either understood early or you didn't. It was something that, especially with like celebrities or whatever, that they could have that direct relationship with their fans. Got a few of them on there early. Before there was a verified check or anything like that. It was, hey, let's choose a username, shall we? And just have some fun with it. Stephen Fry. You could talk to Stephen Fry. You talk to people. You meet people. Connect. And over time, there's a few times where I was hired as a consultant and they're like, what do you think? No, they wouldn't hire me as a consultant. They'd pick my brain. This was before I learned to fucking charge for what I thought was obvious, which was, if you're going to be on social media, you should have a strategy around it and you should understand the culture of the internet. Don't just launch straight in and start fucking treating it like it's, a paid ad spot. Funny that. And most of them just kind of went, okay, thanks, and then didn't do anything. Like what often pitch, one of the early ones that we did was pitch a pet community, which was kind of like a social network for pet owners, okay? I prototyped a dating site. I prototyped a whole bunch of things over the years. I've never really got traction because there came that point in 2012 where I was giving my advice, putting my advice out there, saying this, all my IP for free, because again, it just seemed obvious. And I didn't see that there would be this massive gentrification that occurred. But in about 2012, I think post Coney, okay, Coney 2012 was a real turning point for this stuff. But it was really about 2012, give or take. That advertising agencies got wise to the fact that instead of having to be creative and think about how to make viral content, okay, because that's hard, okay, that's tricky. You can't be more creative than the collective hive mind of fucking everybody. It's just, no creative director. I mean, every so often you'll get a great idea, but most of it is a grind. Most of it is just, doing a lot of, most advertising agencies are shit and they're not very creative. A lot of it is just, there's only a handful of great advertising agencies in the world, okay? There's not really any great, again, and this was something where, but I was building a name for myself as somebody who really understood sort of that guerrilla marketing, not guerrilla, but, guerrilla marketing online. And so people would come to me, but they would reject it. So they'd go, no, but we just want to run. I go, well, you can't. It's not going to, people aren't going to, it's just not going to work. But then eventually, over time, they started to realize that, doing creative shit and viral shit, that's hard. What we can do is just go into digital and start to just do the same shit we always did, which is media buys. What we'll do is we'll just, we'll pretend we're not. But what we'll do is just make everything a billboard, every website a billboard. What we'll do is we'll buy up all of the, MCNs, okay, and the advertising networks and the banner ads, and, we'll buy them up. Okay, and what we'll do is then we can then sell that to the advertising agencies, and advertising agencies don't need to actually evolve in any way. They don't need to get the upskill. They don't need to do anything. What they can do is they can just, outsource their thinking again and just buy fucking banner ads. Okay, and it was just like, oh yeah, well, the internet's now just a billboard like every other media property. And then online, over time, people like me kind of, had our IP stolen, co-opted, ignored mostly, but, also co-opted by the gurus with more money. So a lot of people who, over the years where I would give free advice, turn around and just started up, their agencies and didn't even, no credit, nothing, no license, nothing. They just cut me out. And then, obviously a decade later, still thriving and still fucking telling me how the internet works, which is always hilarious. But this was what kind of happened from a sort of solo consultant point of view, which was that I was very early on. I was building momentum. I was building my brand as someone who went, no, you need to do the hard stuff. You need to put the work in. You need to be, this is an opportunity for craftsmanship. This is an opportunity to learn skills. This is an opportunity to build something great. The transactional people, the wreckers, the exploiters, the lazy thinkers, all those people, okay, they set up ad agencies and digital agencies and cut people like me out of the process, okay? Then there was this shift, okay? So journalists attached. So those relationships started to form between ad agencies, okay, who were buying all of the PPC, and they were buying, again, you had these tech companies that were struggling to monetize. Twitter particularly, I'll get back to Twitter. Twitter particularly was struggling to monetize, but, Facebook sort of figured it out, but, Google figured it out, by using sort of through, the enterprise tools, hosting, all that sort of stuff. That's where most of their bread and butter is with, the what's it called? Google at Work. I fucking use it. It's changed so many times. Google Apps, whatever the fuck Google Apps is now. Google Workplace, whatever the fuck. And Microsoft, obviously, Microsoft struggled with the internet initially as well. Like Microsoft were very much more about sort of that personal computer, and they weren't a leader for a long time when it came to, they were kind of the underdog. But there's a benefit there with Microsoft because, anyway, they were in the midst of sort of all that antitrust stuff as well. I'm obviously skimming over. This was before they owned LinkedIn. This was before they bought all of the stuff. This was the landscape early on with social. The only real corporate sort of move that happened with the internet, with social media was when Murdoch bought MySpace. Went well. But, so this was, all this stuff was happening early on. But early on, it was about relational stuff, building stuff, making connections, thinking, having good ideas, and the strength of your ideas. And part of the reason why I initially built influence on Twitter was because I was funny and I would say stuff that, people, that people found interesting. Okay. I had my share of people who didn't like me, and that's okay. Like that's part of having the personality that I've got. But at the same time, there was that very clear shift where people saw a buck in it. Now, early on, it was MLMs and fucking affiliate marketing, like getting rich on eBay, drop shipping, all of your sort of your affiliate links and all of your, you're selling your fucking, MLM scams and your ebooks and all that fucking crap. Okay, that's always been there. But they weren't really on Twitter. And when they were on Twitter, it was just a monologue because they were transactional. They didn't understand how this whole relational stuff worked. And I think that when we're talking about, and this, this is why I want to do sort of a few different parts. And I'm just focused a little bit on the background today. And I know that I've been going on an hour already, but, whatever. But there was a change. And what's interesting with Musk, see, he's always perplexed me. And anyone who watches this regularly knows that he's one of those people that I want to trust, but I don't. And it's one of those things where unless I sort of, knew him personally, which is never going to happen in a million years, but, from the outside, there's a lot of factors. I don't know if I would trust him. I think he is the less shit option when it comes to ownership of Twitter. I think that the problem with a lot of this culture war stuff is that everyone chooses the part of the story that fits their point of, their narrative, and they omit the parts that, are inconvenient. Like this stuff where, Twitter censors conservatives. No, but conservatives also bully people online more. Okay. All these people bully and they send their mobs and they manipulate the platform. I don't think a lot of them are going to be back on Twitter because I think that they'd be done for platform manipulation anyway. Okay. I think that this is, I imagine they're still, I don't think it's going to be, I think there's a lot of people that have been banned or say shadow banned. Okay. Shadow banning means a lot of different things, but, we'll move on. But a lot of them are poisonous to the platform. And it's not just, oh yeah, we should go back to 2016 Twitter. That's what I called the stream today. I don't want to go back to 2016 Twitter. I stopped using Twitter in 2013 because it was these people took over. Journalists, and they're moaning. Okay, I actually know, probably Twitter. Time to, I lay dormant for 3. I was very active, as active as I am now early, okay? I still love the platform. It works great for me, in terms of the way that the rapid fire, the way my brain works. I enjoy it. I like the fact that, you don't know what you're going to get. You might see something and you go, that's interesting. And it's could be a mix of a joke or whatever. I love the platform. I always have. It's my water cooler. My friends live in it. I love it. I made some amazing connections early on Twitter. Okay. It's just fascinating to me that so few people are willing to talk about how it was stolen from users. By them, whether it's the Young Turks, whether it's fucking them, whether it's like mainstream media, whether it's like a YouTube person who is, a Gen, what is it? Fucking brain's not working. Gen Y, younger Gen Y who, who was a kid when Twitter came out, not an adult. And they think that this is how it's always been. And it isn't that. It wasn't that. What happened was that these transactional people, they all of their interactions are conditional on them getting what they want. They see people as tools. They see the internet as a utility for them to fucking, push their narcissism and, all of that stuff. To make a buck or to fucking exploit people or, for me, it doesn't matter what the framework is, what the rules are, what the terms of service are, what the tech is. Okay. It really doesn't matter. Other than obviously when you're being suppressed and, I've been fucking punished by Twitter because of the mass reporting, but it's not even by Twitter. It's just a loophole being exploited yet again by wreckers who go after the builders, the people who have ideas, the people who put ideas out there, the people who experiment, and the people who are curious. And, and then you've got all these people, whether it's fucking, TERFs fucking destroying, misgendering, whatever, or there's people who are actually trying to put thoughts out into the world, okay? And then there's people who just tearing everything down with no understanding of what was actually accomplished and built with Twitter. It's extraordinary. That's part of the reason why I fucking was so upset when I saw it breaking, because it is it is a valuable platform. And just because you journalist fuckheads who see it as a tool, or, Lindsay and Jordan Peterson and all those IDW fucks, they're no better, whoever they are, they see it at this platform that they wrecked. And then they wreck it and then they go, oh, well, it was stupid anyway. It's like, no, it wasn't that. You wrecked it. You made it horrible. I made it funny. I made it fun. I made people think. Okay? I fought for the internet to fucking have... I fought for brands to try harder, to sell things of value, to sell fucking meaningful shit. And they said, no. Let's get an ad agency that will do this.
I saw it. It happened. And this is why, you know, my frustration with the background, a lot of this stuff, is that that's ignored, because the people who are writing the history, the people that are getting these fucking, you know, million strong fucking streams and their hot takes and all that stuff, they weren't there. They didn't build it like I did. They didn't build it like early Twitter did. They fucked it. And now they're going to kick it while it's down. And I'm sorry, but, you know, if Elon Musk, I don't know whether I trust him. I don't know. But I'm inclined to, because he's also, whatever you say about him, is an old internet guy. He gets the memes. He understands the internet, at least. And, you know, this was always the problem with the internet, is that people were trying to turn something amazing and relational into something that would make them money. And they turn it into a fucking transactional situation. I don't even have transactional friendships. I fire transactional clients. I do not want to associate with people who are who are selfish like that. I am a relational person. Everything I do, I care about the impact. I don't think about what's in it for me. And that was the switch. That became the wisdom. Don't make me think. Old marketing thing from the internet. What's in it for me? Frictionless, easy, 99% fat-free, new and improved. Fuck off. We don't want you. We never wanted you here. And if you fuck off, no one will be sad. Journalists, go away. You're done. Okay? Like, just do some real fucking work, real journalism, real thinking, and just move aside so people like me get our shot. And that's, you know, and it's like, this is the thing where I go, well, is Elon Musk probably going to fucking like censor me too and ignore me too? And, you know, well, maybe. But it's only up from here, okay? It can't be any more shit than it is. But the core problem with Twitter always has been that lot of exploiters and wreckers and people who destroy and don't make or build or think or create anything. And you might, you know, like for me, like the reason why I was first on Twitter, and the reason why I promote Twitter to other creatives and artists and people who make things, and always have, because I've always been about fans, I've always been about community, and I've always been about, you know, looking after your fans, appreciating that stuff, but also, you know, having a thing that cuts these fucking thirsty cunts out. Whether it's record labels, whether it's managers, whether it's fucking, you know, corporate HR, whether it's fucking waste of space journalists, okay, who suddenly get status in the Twitter caste system because of who their shareholders are. Whereas me, with my real name for fucking, what, how long? Ever. Can't get verified. Wall Street Silver can. It's like, for fuck's sake, you know? If it means that I have to pay $5 a month to get verified, then good. Okay? It matters to me. People pretend that this stuff doesn't matter. It matters to me. Because I have to work for it, unlike other people. Other people just, you know, these advertising agencies, fucking journalists, they just had everything handed to them and they've wrecked it, and now they get to fucking dominate the space. I tried to search YouTube, Elon Musk Twitter. Do you know what the first fucking 150 fucking videos were? 2 minutes of fucking everything from commercial media, corporate media. Yeah, I know what happened. I was there. Why can't I see the other results? Why can't I see what everyday users are thinking about this? This is broken, and it wasn't what this was for. It was for us. It was not for them. And I know that Musk is technically a them, okay? Not a they, them, a them. He was, you know, but he's also a fucking old fucking geek guy. He gets it. And also, you know, it can't be any worse because, you know, at least what I'm going to think, anyway, this is probably another stream. I'll move on to something else. But I just mostly want to focus a little bit on background, because all of these fucking assholes in corporate media and even the independent, like high profile people, so America focused, first of all. Also, not a single one of them reflects on what they did to the platform. That maybe they fucked it, that maybe that's not the right. No, they're just talking about how toxic it is, or what's in it for them, how poisonous the fucking platform is, because people that I don't like are talking about stuff. The common people are talking, and I may speak, and when I speak, I will steal their tweets and publish them without their consent or credit. I will make people viral without their fucking permission. And I will not be there and help them in any way, shape or form when their lives are destroyed, because I fucking don't care about people. I only care about myself. I am a transactional thinker and I wreck people. I am a journalist after all. I just publish tweets. They're public. That shit, that ruined the internet, and I was looking for one fucking person to reflect on it, and they didn't. Not a single person. Not Joe Rogan, not fucking people, nobody reflecting on their personal contribution to this mess. It's all about what they're going to get, whether they're going to be invited back on, whether they can talk about fucking, ivermectin, whether they can fucking say the N-word, what they can do, what their rights are, what they get out of it. What about what you did to it? With your fucking... I sat there and my conduct has not changed. I've become more conscious of what I say and the impact of what I say, because I'm not a fucking dickhead. Because I know that it has an impact. And I don't even have a big platform. I have a tiny fucking platform. I'd like a bigger one. Become a patron. Thank you very much. But I don't even have a fucking big platform. But I take it seriously because I know I hold this stuff dear. I'm passionate about it. I love it. And they wreck it. Stop listening to them. The fact that Tim Pool, his audience is a big part of what wrecked Twitter. And his first order of business is to somehow rationalize it as a speech issue and fucking start, it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? This is how you know someone uses the internet versus someone who creates and builds on the internet. Okay? They care about it. They value it. They appreciate the fucking thousands and thousands and thousands of man hours that go into an open source platform. They appreciate that. They don't take it and sell it. They fucking give back to the community. They make things open source. They share and share alike. They don't tear people down who are trying to fucking, be curious or make a joke and that doesn't land. They're not sitting there destroying everything all the time. They're building shit. They're making shit. They're coding shit. They're designing shit. They're figuring out how to make it better. All because you are fucking so focused on making everything fucking worse all the time and making money from it. And it's like, okay, well, maybe get your head straight, because that's not what we were promised. And that's why I keep saying that's not what we were promised. It's not what I was promised. I was promised that I could say whatever the fuck I want, be responsible with that speech, because I'm not a fucking prick. I don't need to be told I can't say things to not say things. I don't need to brush up against the fucking limits because I know why they're there. Because it hurts people and it can be dangerous and it has an impact. And yes, I'm including those people who fucking misuse that impact or appeal to empathy or appeal to emotion in order to censor people. You're just as bad. Fuck off. You're bad people. You're transactional thinkers. You're only working in your interests, not in the interests of everyone else. Or, or even just trying to be a better fucking person. Even if, okay, so you can be even if you like, okay, let's say you're a socialist, you can still be a fucking individual socialist, okay? You can still be an individualist and a socialist. They're not incompatible things. Okay? Adler, fucking, big part, individual psychology, whole school of fucking thought, socialist. Work on yourself, be better before you worry about others, okay? That's still, you can still do that, but it comes from a place of fucking love and compassion and, not wanting to, fight with your neighbor. So you are a better person and you lift others rather than being a selfish, transactional, exploitative fuckhead who ruins everything they touch. And I'm talking to all of the big head fucking parlor fuckheads. Stay off Twitter. I hope Trump does. And again, I'm not saying Trump should be banned. I'm not saying he should come back. I'm saying I wish Trump knew what was best. I wish that people knew what was best for them. That was not transactional. That it was better for everyone if he doesn't fucking go there. Because that's what happened in 2015. When he started running for president, that platform went to shit. Because of him and him alone. It wasn't because people were speaking freely. It wasn't because of hate. It wasn't because they censor conservatives and it wasn't ideological. It was because he has no fucking scruples, just like any other affiliate MLM fuck that's been on the internet since the beginning of time. They wreckers. They tear shit down. They don't build. And that's the thing. When you're talking about capitalism and socialism, okay, ways of organising the economy, they're still fucking markets, they're still a free market. I've said this before. One incentivizes exploitation and destruction. The other makes you do better, work harder. It makes the lazy rich people have to fucking be the workers because their money is no good. Okay? I mean, they still have money. I'm just saying, I'm not saying there's no money. I'm saying they can't buy their way out of fucking, you can't buy your way into being smart under socialism. You can't just shortcut. There's no shortcuts. People like me in a system like, rise to the, not rise to the top because there's, but I'm saying like, we get paid fairly. Everything's, you're compensated fairly. The arrangement, no one's exploiting you. No one's stealing from you. And if you do, you have a recourse for that. Okay? It's about the way that the system's designed and what is incentivized. And are we going to incentivize the most selfish, toxic, revolting people who, unlike me, need rules? Church people need God to tell them not to fucking, obey the 10 Commandments. I obey the 10 Commandments because it's wrong and because it's, it hurts people and I don't like hurting people and it's wrong. None of this, it's technically legal shit, okay? People who work within the fucking technicalities of the law rather than understanding the spirit of the law are bad people. They're transactional, they're wreckers. They're people who are always trying to find a loophole. Tax loopholes, fucking, people loopholes, exploiting people's boundaries, exploiting the the parameters of the API of a platform, everything. They're exploiters. They're bad people. And I don't know why people support it. Because I suppose, again, I do know why, rhetorical, because nobody wants to address, like I said, nobody wants to look at their own personal contribution to these problems. They always want to blame someone else, and the people that remind them most of themselves and the shit that they don't want to change are the ones that they fucking, everyone, the people who support people like Tim Pool and James Lindsay and even people, like on the left, I'm just trying to think of fucking people like Young Turks, all those people, okay, who are in it for themselves, okay, like even on the media, even on the left media, right, they, their socialism is what socialism means to me as part of their fucking, Ivy League application essay. It's not something that they've actually fucking lived. And it's the same thing with this Twitter stuff. I fucking lived all of this. I know what happened. I know what we were sold, and they're lying. about what happened, and it is useful. It is great. They just need to fuck off, and they need to look at their behavior. Everyone needs to look at what they personally contribute or don't contribute to every platform, because the platform is the people who use it. Okay? The thing about this data is that it's, it's pretty honest. Okay, there was that thing with Google when people were like, oh, the recommended searches are coming up. Yeah, because that's what people are searching. So the more people search that, Google says, oh, lots of people are searching that. Who searched that? It's like a recommendation engine. That's what happens. Okay, these things are truthful about humanity. They're not a fucking... And Twitter used to be truthful. It was before it was manipulated by all of these assholes for profit. But if we can get back, I'm really hoping that maybe we can get a do-over. Now, this is where we talk about Jack Dorsey and Blue Sky. I'm really interested in what he's going to do with Blue Sky. Now, Jack, after the deal closed, which is funny, announced that he's opening invites soon for his new platform, Blue Sky, which looks like it might be a new protocol. It's basically like a federated Twitter, which... He's talked about it before. You can choose which algorithm you're on. I think it's kind of what Minds have tried to do, except, probably better. And I've always trusted Jack, and I have also understood what happened because I've been in tech. I have seen it. I've pitched to VCs and said, I thought it was my product, but it's not my product. It's the fact that I'm this. I can't be fucking, manipulated. But, Jack and Mark Zuckerberg and, even Elon Musk, Jack's different because he just made a thing that was cool and it just kind of got away from him. But, I trust that this is the nature of being over a barrel with VCs. It's the nature of what happened. It happened over time. They're not necessarily complicit as such. We all are. If you are, if you don't use your platforms responsibly or you don't use these things and you're a wrecker and your job is to try and wreck things and your motivation is to destroy and your motivation is to fucking destroy people like me who put themselves out there, I try to be positive. Most of the time it's just me being snarky and frustrated. But, for the most part, I try to build and I try to come up with solutions and I try to, I don't need to stay on Twitter. If anything, it's probably not ideal because nobody reads it. But at the same time, I hope that in the one or two shots that I get that people might be confused about the culture wars or something that's happening, that I have a take that's like, no, they're lying to you. They wrecked it. I'm here. No, it's like that, sorry, I've started doing that again. I don't know whether that's picked up by the microphone, with the new microphone. Sorry if I am. When I get going. But it's like up, when with his house, when a neighborhood gets gentrified and it's like, okay, all right, there's all these high rises around me and all these corporate buildings around me and there's a fucking hipster cafe and I'm still there in my fucking house and it's got too many wind chimes, if anything, and slightly awkward amount of garden gnomes and probably, I'm the eccentric crazy lady, okay? That's fine. I've got a weird yard, all right? But I'm staying put. And what I will do is the fucking kids that walk by who think that those buildings were always there and those people were always there and that's the way it fucking runs, I will be there and I will say, that's not what happened. They took it over. This used to be a good fucking place. I used to know my neighbours. I used to hang out with my neighbours. I love this place. I'm staying put till I fucking die. That's how we should be looking at Twitter. And that's how I look at it. And on the off chance that these fucking kids that walk by go, oh, okay. Most of them will go, that bitch is crazy. Okay, most of them will try to, they'll try to get you out of the house. They'll try to push you out. They'll try to offer you all of the money in the world to stop, so that they can put another fucking, corporate bullshit and whatever in your place. But I'm not going to. I'm staying put in my shack until I fucking die with my gnomes, my imaginary gnomes, my obscene garden gnomes, with a sign that says, fuck off, cunts. I was here first. That. That's the background of Twitter. And that's why, with part 2, we're going to talk about after that. How fake tan broke the fucking internet. Now, this started with Obama. Sort of. Sort of. Again, there's lots of different things that you can focus on. But that was my rant. Time to go. Been long enough. I was going to keep it under an hour. But there was let's just say there's a good 40 minutes of solid material in this hour and a half stream. But it's on record of what I think. Reflect on how you personally interact with other people. Reflect on what your real motives are. And if you are an influencer in any way, shape or form, I suggest you look at maybe, especially if you've got a blue check, look at how you wrecked this platform. Look at what you did to wreck it. Because I didn't fucking wreck it. I love it. I used it the way it's always been supposed to be used. And that fucked me. But I don't care. Because I refuse to budge. But you, if you're an influencer and you're not thinking about the fact that you fucking destroyed this platform, but you're turning around and still calling it rotten anyway, oh, well, fucking, God forbid you actually have to reflect for 2 fucking seconds and do some thinking. Don't make me think, what's in it for me? All those tropes that I always refused to use. Mine was always love your fans, appreciate your fans, and it will be okay. Make things. And that's not going to change for me. This is technically making things. You put yourself out there, win, lose or draw. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people consume content and they'll show up in the chat and they'll argue with you and they'll fucking tear you down, but they won't make their own. They won't do their own thing. They won't take the time. Even a lot of influencers, they won't take the time to skin the chat bubble. They won't, take time to do branding. They won't, they won't do it. They just want the quick, the easy, the profitable, and the highest amount of numbers. The highest, audience count with none of the fucking responsibility that goes with it. But hey, let that sink in. Don't know if I trust him. I want to. I want to trust him. But, who knows? Who knows? I hope he does. I hope he brings it back. I love it. Anyway, my gosh. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about, other stuff tomorrow. It'll be in the afternoon this time. Because I have a doctor's appointment. I'm going to go. Actually, hang on. Depends. If I get up early. No, I'll do an afternoon one. I love you. Thanks for watching. Do become a patron if you want. Okay. Unfortunately, we've got this necessary thing where in order for me to do this, I need to live. And in order for me to live, I need to ask you for money. Now, I know everyone's hurting at the moment and it sucks, so it is never, ever expected, ever. Make all the people who wrecked the internet, who took all my IP, who stole my shit, who fucking, used my, sweat equity, my sweat, blood, sweat and tears over the years, quite literally, to make themselves a nice little fucking career. Make them pay me. They're doing okay. But if you're on board with this and you're old school and, you want to fix things and you're a builder, let the fucking wreckers pay you. Let them pay damages for the shit that they're doing. But call them out. Call them out. If you see this, call them out for what they are. Wreckers. Create something. And I don't just mean write something. I mean, there's people who are lazy thinkers who write books. Okay? Anyone can write a book if they've got the money and the fucking time, right? But I'm saying, become more aware of what people are putting out in the world. I try to be the change that I want to see, and I try to, I'm not perfect, but I try every day to be better, and I try to orient towards truth
as best I can in this fucking insane place where, you know, bullshit seems to be, you know, there's no consequences for bullshit. There's nothing, you know, and that hurts people. It affects people. I'll talk about that tomorrow, which is the, you know, some of the policy problems that we've got. Anyway, I love you. Thanks for watching. I hope my lighting's okay, and I hope the sound's okay, because you know, I'll tweak it. I'm back into tweaking mode, but you know, all this cope for a fucking kit lens, it's driving me nuts. Anyway, I love you. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Do I have a button? Yep.